Alright guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a vocal chain. If you're tired of not knowing how to make one or why things are in certain orders, well, this is going to be the tutorial for you. This is for people that are making like more underground type of music, like that Net Spendy, fucking Xavier So Bass, Two Hollis, Blade type shit. And this honestly works with any genre because you can adjust parameters to, like, if you're making like a rock song or like a heavy metal song, or you're making like a indie song. This chain will literally work for any of those songs. You just gotta adjust things depending on the sound you want. This is before all the processing, and this is after all the processing. So let's get right into it. So the first thing in the chain will always be a NS1 or a noise suppressor or a gate. Basically what this is doing is it's gonna remove all the background noise that you don't want in your recording. Simple, not gonna dive too much deeper into that. The second thing on the list is an autotune. You don't have to use the real time specifically. You could use like the Antares one or the Xvox Pro one. Personally, I just like the real time tune because it has like zero latency and it works for what I use it for. If you want the robot autotune, you put it to 0, 0. If you want more human or not as much robo, just play around with the settings. Yeah, this is what's gonna make you hit the notes, especially if you suck at singing, and it gives you that nice virtual sound. Next, we have a de-esser. What's a de-esser? It's gonna get rid of the sound, so it's not so harsh and not cutting straight through your mixes and your recording. You want to adjust it to around the 5 to 10k mark. Play around those areas. That's usually where you're gonna get the most sibilance. That's what it's called. Yeah, simple. Now we're moving on to the part where you're really starting to shape this vocal. What I did here is I added a subtractive EQ. What is a subtractive EQ? Basically, you're removing frequencies that you do not like, that sound bad to the ear. You do that by putting the Q level to like a little thinner, and then you just play around. And I don't like how that sounds, so I just remove it. Play around with how much you want to remove, and you just do that over and over with all these little things right here. You guys see them on the screen, and you want to do a high cut. Basically what you're doing is you're removing all the boomy stuff, all the stuff you don't want in like a vocal. Yeah, simple. You don't have to go too crazy with this. Just remove the subtle, ugly, nasty frequencies that you don't want showing up in your recording and stuff like that. Now we move on to compression. Basically what you're doing here is you're pushing the quiet parts to not be so quiet, and you're pushing the loud parts down to not be so loud. It's evening out your vocal and allowing you to actually sound good, because if you just have like the default mic where nothing is compressed, everything's gonna clip or everything's gonna be too loud, making an inconsistent, uneven vocal. So now that we got the input and output thing out the way, let's talk about attack and release. Attack is like how fast you want your punch to be. How fast do you want that jab to be? A 1 is like a really quick jab, like boom, boom, instant. A 7 is like a super slow grandpa punch, and then you have like somewhere in the middle where it's a little quicker but still not super fast. Depending on what type of song you're doing, like if you're doing like a rap song, you kind of want it to be punchy just because you want to be able to like spit and flow and shit like that. So you want to have a quicker attack. But if you're doing a more slow indie melodic song, you want to have it like at a 3, around that area. So now let's go to release. How fast is that punch coming back? How fast is it coming back? Same thing as before. If you're rapping, you want it to come back so you can keep flowing. Like an indie, slower, more ambient song, you need it to be like more smooth. You know, it just really depends on what type of music you're making. So yeah, don't get too caught up into it. Just find a good area. So we've been doing all this talking. Let's see how it's sounding right now. Yeah. This is after all the shit we did. You can see how it's already coming together. And this is before. You hear there's just so much shit going on. There's nothing to like. There's nothing, bro. And then you got this. Everything is tamed. Everything is sounding right and beautiful. Okay, now we have a doubler and a flanger. Basically what these two are doing is just you're making the vocal come together. It's like you're mixing the pot. What the doubler is for is basically you're adding width and dimension to your vocal, making it not so like just one dimensional. Think of it of adding like two people singing side by side. These are the settings you want to do. It's nothing complicated. If you don't know what this does, just copy the settings. It's that simple. Flanger. This is where you're like really stirring stuff up to like make it blend into one thing, like you're mixing it into actual batter instead of being a clump of ingredients. You want to keep it subtle. If it doesn't have to be this flanger in specific, you could choose any flanger, just lower the mix settings. You don't want to have too much because then it's going to sound too crazy. Depending on the song, you might want to add more or a little less. So I'll show you what they do. Just makes everything smoother, makes everything smoother. Yeah, just everything mixes up well. It's also really good for your autotune because it gets rid of some of the, you know, when you're going up in the scale, it gets rid of some of that and it smoothens it out, making you sound better, making you sound better, making you sound better. Probably one of the more important parts is adding frequencies. Instead of removing frequencies you don't like, you're going to be adding frequencies you do like. Same as before, you scan. I didn't go so aggressive with the Q just because I wanted to have a more broad area be expanded and you know, put into my vocal. Yeah, easy stuff. Easy stuff. Okay, now we're moving on to the second compressor of the chain. Basically, this is like a gluey type compressor. You're just bringing everything together. Everything is stuck onto each other now, and stuff is just more coherent. Everything is running more streamlined. Everything is together now, and this moves us on to the OTT. You don't have to have Ableton to use OTT. You could have the Ziffer version, or you could have the Slate Digital version. One of them, the Ziffer version, is free, so you guys can go check that out on your own. But basically, these settings right here with this multi-band compressor is just expanding certain frequencies, making it more lively, making the vocal more out there, making it better, making it more beautiful, making it amazing. I put the amount to around 20. You don't want too much or else it's gonna completely kill the vocal. So I'll show you guys how that sounds. So this is basically the vocal, and this is without them. You hear this? You hear this? You hear this? Whoa. It just pushes a little bit more out. Okay, now we're moving on to reverb and delay. This is like the icing on the cake. You don't want to add too much, but you also don't want to add too little. If you add too much, the cake is fucked. If there isn't enough, the cake is going to be very bland. So these are my settings. You guys could copy them. If you know how to actually work, you know, this type of stuff, you can copy these settings onto any type of reverb. But yeah, this is the easiest reverb for me in my opinion. It also sounds the best in my opinion. You don't have to use these. You could use whatever reverb and delay you want, but I usually like ping pong with the fourth. I like a more ambient, you know, cool, fucking more spacey type reverb, and I'll show you how it sounds. I was going up, I was walking up the street, yeah, this bitch, she fuck on me, yeah, she tell me something me, yeah, she tell me wanted me, yeah, she tell me it's for free, yeah, took it to the beach, yeah. Yeah, she told me wanted me, yeah, took it to the beach, yeah, told her wanted me, yeah. And that's the end of the video, bro. I'm just gonna say this right now. You don't have to copy the settings exactly, but this is a good starting point if you don't know where to start at all. You can add stuff, you can remove stuff, but if you can get this basic chain down, you'll learn the principles of making a vocal chain, and eventually you can get pretty crazy, or you can start simplifying, taking stuff, adding stuff. So I hope this video helped you, and I hope you start to understand a little bit more. Keep watching videos. You don't have to watch mine specifically. Just keep learning, and eventually you'll get the best vocal chain for yourself.